Hi guys, and welcome to another KamicarzCreation video. Back working on the little 173. Got a few issues to solve, as you always do when you modify engines. Take them out of their standard realm and you start running into troubles. So with the 202, I've gone down a rabbit hole with that one, and as I get this one closer, I might actually pull that engine back out of the engine builder and work with him. He's happy to lend me tools and things like that, but he's absolutely flat out. He's a diesel engine repairer, and that's the bread and butter up here. And I've known him for a lot of years and haven't pushed him on the 202, and hence it's taken a fair while. But this one I wanted to do myself, and I'm learning a bit. As the old motto of the channel goes, learning and sharing car building ideas. So this little baby here, it's the Bathurst spec yellow Terra head that got off HSD down in Melbourne, and decent sized valves, intake and exhaust. I could quote you exact numbers, but I don't know what they are at the moment. And when I had this done, and on the last video I did, Adam saw that I'd put the crank and pistons in the motor, and he said, oh, you know, I'm a bit worried about the valves touching the bores, because it's a 173 block running fairly big valves. And so what they've done, I'll show you a little bit here on the machine. We'll get a bit more into it, and I'll show you exactly what I'm looking at and the issues I'm having and how I'm going to resolve them. So what Adam did for me, firstly, I had this supplied with just the outer valve springs. This has got double valve springs like most of the Hot Sixes have. So I've just got the outers on there to reduce the lobe pressure on the cam, and I'm going to run the right oil in it to increase the mineral content so I don't wear those cam and lifters. Hopefully it'll survive. Running solid lifters, but Adam left complete valve spring assembly off these two valves, one intake, one exhaust, obviously, on number one pot. And this is allowing me to find the valve drop. So at the moment, I am hitting on something, because I can drop that valve a lot further when I haven't got the head on there. So we're just touching on the side of the bore. So I'm going to need to pull the crank and pistons out for starters, because I've got to do a little bit of machining. So pull the crank and pistons back out of it. Put the head back on and just nip it. I've actually got a gasket there, but put the head on, put a couple of bolts in it so it's going to stay there. And I'm going to flip it upside down and have a look at where the valves are hitting the bore. My good mate, the engine builder, did supply a little camera for me to have a look up inside there, but it's not going to be easy. Soon I'm looking up and I've only got a small hole to go down in the plug. So I'll show you this lift issue, and I'll show you the cam specs and show you how I know it actually is hitting. So I don't know how well you can see this, but up on this line here, basically I'm running a 1.5 rocker ratio with the yellow Terra rockers that I've got, and with that 1.5 on the exhaust I've got 504 thou lift, and on the intake I've got 486 thou lift. So 500 thou is 40 thou to a mil, so we're looking, you know, 10 to 12 mil there in lift, and I'm definitely not getting that on the drop on the valve. So we'll have a look at that now. So I've just got a set of verniers, and currently with that valve pulled all the way up, which means it's in the closed position, I'm getting 32 mil. So I've got 32 mil sitting up, and if I bring it down to the fully closed position, I've got just under 21 mil. So let me check that again. Fully closed position, 21 mil. So that gives me 9, 10, 11 mil, and that's under the amount of lift I've got. So 11 mil would be, that's 400, about 440 thou, and I've got 480 on the intake, 480 lift. So I need this to go down a little bit more without hitting anything. So that's the mission at the moment, and this one's exactly the same. So the valves are obviously hitting on the same surface, which is the deck height, and I'm running at the moment 40 thou gasket in there. That will have some compression, but that would only make it worse, I reckon, if I compress that down at the moment. So my mission is to have a look at where they're hitting. So a little bit of work to pull the crank and the pistons out again. Have a look at where that's hitting, and I'm probably going to have to relieve the bores a little bit to get those valves running through. Crank's back out. All the pistons lined up, caps, etc. And I've just assembled the head onto it using some ARP head studs that I had lying about, which is excellent, and actually found that I had a set of ARP main studs as well, so I'll be using them when I put it back together. So I'm just about to flip it over and have a look at these two valves here and how they interact with the bore. So there it is, fairly big clearance issues, especially on the intake valve, but also on the exhaust. So intake and exhaust are both hitting, and I need to have a look at how to fix that and put some reliefs on that bore. As soon as I can get past that, I'm then up to the next stage of concern, which is valve to piston clearance. So this is the first issue to resolve, but it makes it nice and clear doing it this way, and I'll just show you through the other bores. Obviously you're going to have the same issue on all of them. So once I get my measurements right and my positions right, I can then start to relieve the bore to allow those valves to come past them. And it's sort of a process of take the minimum off, so you don't change the chamber volume too much. Obviously it's going to change it a little bit. It doesn't really matter how far you come across the head surface, but you've got to stay away from the depth of that first ring on the piston. So you can't go down past that first ring, obviously. Just got to give it enough clearance that it can get past the bore, which it's obviously hitting, and would have made a huge mess if you had have assembled the engine and put it back together like that. I've now started working on the relief areas. You can see the line marked around the bore is basically using the 202 head gasket, and there where they allow in the gasket for the valves to come down in. And I rang Eddie down at HSD and talked to him about it, And he said this is basically what they do. So use the gasket, find the positions, and then grind a chamfer to relieve out around where that valve comes down and in. And you can basically go down as far as just above the top ring. Now this block has been decked, so the pistons are now about 5 thou below the deck surface, and from the piston to the top of the first ring is about 5.5 mil. So I'm allowing myself to be able to come down into the bore about 5 mil, which keeps me well away from that top ring, and just putting a chamfer on there, basically just chamfering it out so that the valve has clearance. Now with that one there at the moment, it is pretty much finished. I might go a little bit more and tidy it up, but it's pretty much finished, and I'm getting the correct drop on the valve, and I just have to work on the other side. And I'm going to end up having to take all the springs off and do them independently through all the bores. So I've got a little bit of work to do to get this done, but the method seems good. The process is working because I've got one valve now dropping the correct amount, and I'm doing it without the gasket on there. So that's dropping the head down 20 thou, about 20 thou. I'm not sure what compression I'll get on that. I'll have a look, but it's about a 40 thou gasket. So taking that off is dropping the head down 40 thou more, and then I'm still going to the right numbers. Now over here, I worked out, took it away from Imperial. So on the inlet, I need 12.34 millimeters, and on the exhaust, I need 12.8 drop. And I'm going to allow a little bit more than that just for a little bit of clearance. So guys, that's where I'm at in the shed. I've got a little bit of work to do, and I'll keep you up to date in the next video. Make sure you hit that like button if you like this content. I searched everywhere for this sort of information out in the net, and I couldn't find any. Eddie's been good with his solution to it, and it seems to be working well. So it's now just down to doing the work, chamfering out those bores, getting the clearance on the valves, and then moving on to the next stage. So thanks for watching.